There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that her silence was never weakness. It was the power she hadn't yet learned to use. There comes a time when your tears no longer roll for them, but they water the soil of the life you're rebuilding. And that, my love, is the moment your healing begins, not to prove them wrong, not to show them what they lost, but to finally meet the version of you that they tried to bury. They thought they broke you, didn't they? They thought walking away, betraying you, disrespecting you would shatter your spirit, and maybe, for a moment it did. You questioned your worth, your beauty, your value. You asked yourself, was I not enough? But here's what they didn't expect. They didn't expect you to rise. They didn't expect that their betrayal would light a fire inside you. They didn't expect you to come back stronger, softer, wiser, and unshakably whole. Because your revenge is not in the pain you could give back. Your revenge is not in the words you could scream or the apologies you'll never receive. Your revenge is in your peace, your success, your glow, your calmness in the chaos they left behind. It's in the way you look in the mirror now, no longer begging for love, but recognizing it in your own eyes. You see, healing isn't linear, it's messy. Some days you'll wake up feeling like a queen, and others you'll still feel broken. But healing is choosing you over and over again until the old wounds become stories, not scars, until the pain becomes wisdom, until their memory no longer leaves rent, free in your heart. And let me tell you, nothing terrifies those who hurt you more than your ability to forgive yourself and rise anyway. Your healing embarrasses their cruelty, your growth exposes their cowardice. When you thrive, not in spite of what happened, but because you refuse to let it define you, that is the loudest statement you'll ever make. So keep glowing, keep walking forward even when your knees shake. Cry when you need to, scream when it hurts, but never, ever stop choosing you. Every time you laugh again, every time you love again, every time you look at your past and feel peace instead of pain, that is your revolution. That is your triumph, and that is your revenge. Your quiet moments, the ones where you sat alone questioning your worth, weren't signs of weakness. They were signs of power you hadn't yet realized. The world often confuses silence with surrender, but silence can be sacred. It can be strength gathering itself, breath by breath, waiting for the moment to rise. You see, when you're hurt, the first instinct is to scream, to defend, to make noise so the world knows your side of the story. But healing rarely begins in noise. It begins in stillness, in those nights when you cry quietly into your pillow, not because you're weak, but because you're human, and even in those tears you're growing though you don't see it yet. There is something unbreakable about a woman who has been shattered and still chooses to sit with herself, to sit in silence, feel every inch of the pain, and refuse to let it turn her bitter. That's not weakness. That's a rare kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself, because you're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to find yourself, and that self, the one that's rising quietly within you, doesn't need to explain her silence to anyone. The people who left, the ones who hurt you, expected your silence to be your downfall. They thought that if you weren't shouting, you must be drowning. But what they didn't know was that your silence was your survival. It was your sanctuary. It was the place you went to gather the pieces of yourself they tried to break. They didn't understand that while they moved on, distracted and detached, you were building something unshakable inside. Every day that you didn't text back, every moment you didn't retaliate, every time you chose not to beg, you were winning, quietly, powerfully. The most dangerous woman is not the one who shouts in anger, it's the one who smiles in silence because she's already made peace with herself. Your silence is not empty. It's full of decisions, boundaries, strength, and clarity. It's full of the lessons you learned the hard way. It's full of the truths you finally stopped running from. You stopped needing validation, stopped needing closure, because you realized the real battle was never with them. It was always with the parts of you that thought you needed them, And now look at you. No drama, no rage, just presence. Peace. You understand now that silence isn't what they thought. It's not retreat, it's rise. You stopped performing for people who never truly saw you. You stopped pouring into cups that only drained you. And in that silence you found something louder than any scream, your own voice, not the voice that begs or explains, but the voice that says, I am enough, even here, even now. So yes, they underestimated your silence. But that was their mistake, because your silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. It was power held with grace. It was you choosing yourself without saying a single word. And that kind of power doesn't just heal. It transforms, quietly, radically, forever. They didn't break you, they revealed you. That's the part people rarely understand. When someone betrays you, abandons you, or tries to dim your light, they think they've won. They think the damage they caused will define you, and for a moment maybe it does. For a moment you feel the pain so deeply it wraps itself around your ribs and squeezes. You lose sleep, lose appetite, lose direction. You stare at the ceiling wondering what went wrong, what you could have done differently, but then something shifts, not all at once, slowly, gently, quietly, and you realize what broke was never the real you. What broke was the version of you that was willing to shrink, to bend, to bleed for someone else's comfort. And what's left, what rises from that wreckage, is the version of you that was always meant to be. Pain is revealing. It peels away the illusions. It strips you of the roles you played to be accepted. It shatters the expectations you wore like armor. And when the dust settles, when your heart has cried every last tear it needs to cry, you find yourself staring at someone new. Someone stronger, someone softer, not because she's weak, but because she's no longer pretending to be hard to survive. Someone who understands her worth, not from how others treat her, but from how she now chooses to treat herself. The people who tried to break you weren't just hurting you, they were forcing you to meet yourself, the real you, the one you kept buried under people, pleasing, under fear, under the pressure to be loved at any cost. And as painful as their actions were, they were also the mirror you didn't know you needed. They showed you where your boundaries were missing. They revealed the parts of your soul that were still waiting for you to choose them. In trying to tear you down, they unknowingly handed you the blueprints to your own rise. You begin to realize that what you lost wasn't love. It was a false version of it. Love doesn't hurt like that. Love doesn't ask you to sacrifice your peace or your dignity. What you had might have been attachment, fear of being alone, a desperate hope that someone else would finally see you. But you see you now. You see the woman who survived, the woman who could have stayed broken, bitter, or cold, but chose instead to evolve, and evolution is the truest form of revenge. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're just being, living, healing, creating, laughing, existing in a way that is so full, so bright, that those who tried to break you wouldn't even recognize the version of you that emerged from the fire they lit. And that's the point, they don't need to. Your healing isn't for their eyes. It's for your future, your peace, your purpose. They thought they were writing your ending, but all they did was set the stage for your new beginning. Not a comeback, because you were never truly gone, but a revelation. A revealing of the you that was always hidden under the weight of trying to be loved. Now you know better. Now you love better, starting with yourself. Your healing is not for them. It's not a performance, a message, or a show of strength to make them regret what they did. Healing isn't about teaching them a lesson. It's about teaching yourself how to live without the weight of them. When you begin to truly heal, not out of spite but out of self-respect, something powerful happens. You stop waiting for the apology. You stop rehearsing the conversations that will never happen. You stop stalking their timelines, hoping they look like they're suffering without you. Because you finally understand none of that will ever give you peace. Revenge seems tempting when you're in pain. You think if they could just feel what I feel, maybe they'd understand, maybe they'd realize what they lost. But revenge keeps you tied to the same cycle that hurt you. It's just another form of attachment rooted in the idea that their validation still matters, but healing, real healing, breaks that chain. It removes them from the center of your story. It shifts the focus from them to you, your joy, your peace, your freedom. That's the true power. When you stop bleeding for the people who never brought you a bandage. It's not about pretending you're okay. Healing isn't always pretty. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, and others you'll fall apart all over again. That's normal. Growth is messy. Some nights you'll still cry. Some memories will still sting, but with every breath, with every choice to let go just a little more, you begin to reclaim your life. And the best part, it happens quietly, without needing to prove anything. Without needing to be seen. People might not even notice your transformation right away, but you'll feel it. You'll notice the day you walk past a place that used to haunt you, and your chest doesn't tighten. You'll notice when you hear their name and your heart doesn't sink. You'll notice when you look in the mirror and see someone who no longer begs for love, but stands in it, fully, authentically. That's not just healing, that's power. And no, they may never see the version of you that's rising. They may never know how hard it was to get here, but that's okay, because your healing was never about them in the first place. It was about giving yourself what they never could: peace, safety, honesty, and the kind of love that doesn't need to be earned. You give that to yourself now, in full. When you start doing things just for you, laughing again, traveling, rebuilding dreams you put on hold, you'll realize how small they were in the grand scheme of your life. You'll realize that healing was never about going backward and fixing what broke. It was about stepping forward and becoming someone new, someone who no longer looks for revenge, but radiates a kind of peace that nothing and no one can shake. So no, your healing isn't about making them regret. It's about making yourself whole. It's not loud. It's not for display. It's sacred. It's yours. And that, more than anything, is what makes it the most powerful revenge of all. There is nothing more powerful, nothing more terrifying to the ones who hurt you, than a woman who has found her peace. Real, deep, soul-level peace, the kind that doesn't need to be performed or posted, the kind that doesn't seek validation or closure. It's quiet, it's calm, it's grounded, and that kind of peace, it shakes people in a way anger never could. Because when you're truly at peace, you no longer react, you no longer explain, you no longer care whether they see you, miss you, or remember you. You've made peace with the silence, and more importantly, you've made peace with yourself. They expected chaos from you. They expected you to beg, to break, to spiral, and maybe you did for a little while. Maybe you screamed into the pillow, wrote messages you never sent, or replayed memories that now feel like lies. But you didn't stay there. You didn't stay broken. Somewhere in the darkness, you started to rebuild, brick by brick, breath by breath. You stopped chasing answers and started creating space for stillness. That stillness became your sanctuary. You learned how to breathe without their presence. You learned how to stand without their support. You learned how to smile again, not because everything was perfect, but because you finally felt safe in your own skin. Peace doesn't mean you've forgotten what they did. It means you're no longer available to be disturbed by it. You've processed the pain. You've felt every ounce of it, and now you've set it down. It no longer controls you. You don't need to tell your side of the story anymore. You don't need them to acknowledge what they did. You've outgrown the need for closure because your peace has closed the chapter for you. They are no longer the author of your emotions. You are. This kind of peace doesn't come overnight. It's earned through heartbreak, through lonely nights, through inner work that no one sees. It's in the morning rituals, the journal pages, the tears cried alone. It's in the choice to walk away, not because you're weak, but because protecting your energy became more important than proving your point. You stopped fighting to be understood. You stopped living in reaction. You started responding with grace, with stillness, with intention. That's power, that's growth, and the beauty of this piece. It radiates. People feel it when you walk into a room. They sense it in your smile, in your silence, in the way you carry yourself. The people who hurt you, they won't know what to do with this version of you, the one who no longer needs them, the one who no longer flinches at their name, the one who glows not from revenge, but from restoration. You've stopped surviving, you're living now, and you've done it by choosing peace over pettiness, healing over hatred. That's a victory they never saw coming, because they thought your silence would mean defeat. But really, it became your crown. You wear it not to impress them, but to remind yourself of how far you've come. You've made it to the other side, and the view from here, it's clear, it's quiet, it's peaceful. And it's entirely yours. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because carrying the weight of resentment is like drinking poison and expecting them to suffer. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't erase the betrayal, the manipulation, the way they made you feel small. It simply means you're done letting that pain dictate your life. You're done replaying the same story. You're done giving them power over your peace. Forgiveness is not about them. It's a gift you give to yourself. You'll hear people say, "I could never forgive someone who did that to me." And in the beginning, you might feel the same way. The wound is too raw, the anger feels like a shield, the bitterness gives you something to hold on to, but over time that shield becomes a cage, that anger starts to eat away at your joy, that bitterness becomes your new normal. And you realize they're not hurting anymore. You are. They've moved on. They're living their life while you're still shackled to what they did. And that's when it hits you. Holding on to the pain is just letting them win again and again. True forgiveness isn't about looking them in the eye and saying, "I forgive you." It's about waking up one day and realizing that your heart feels lighter. It's about no longer letting their name ruin your mood. It's about seeing their face, hearing their voice, remembering what happened and not falling apart. That's when you know you've taken your power back. That's when you know you've risen above what they tried to drag you into. You don't have to announce your forgiveness. You don't have to post about it or let them back into your life. In fact, most times, real forgiveness happens in silence. It happens in the quiet moments when you choose peace instead of revenge, healing instead of hurting. When you stop reacting to them in your mind, when you stop needing closure because you became it, you became your own resolution. You chose to move forward with grace, with clarity, with love for yourself. And that takes courage. It's easy to stay angry. It's easy to hold a grudge. But it takes emotional mastery to say, "This pain will not own me anymore." It takes strength to walk away without vengeance in your eyes and instead walk with peace in your soul. Because forgiveness is not about pretending it didn't happen, it's about refusing to let it shape who you become. The truth is, when you forgive, you don't become weaker, you become freer. You become untouchable in a world that wants you to stay broken. They expect you to hate. They expect you to burn bridges. They expect you to lash out. But when you forgive and walk away without a scar on your spirit, you confuse them, you disarm them, because now you're not just healed, you're elevated. And nothing scares someone more than a woman who found a way to win without fighting. You don't forgive for them. You forgive so you can sleep at night, so you can smile again, so your energy stays pure. So your future isn't tainted by your past. You forgive because peace looks better on you than pain ever did, and once you taste that peace, once you feel how light your soul becomes, you'll never want to carry bitterness again. Revenge doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is a quiet, unstoppable glow. Not the kind you fake for a photo or force for the world to see, but the kind that radiates from within, built slowly through healing, growth, and fierce self-love. It's when you stop trying to make them regret losing you and start focusing on becoming someone you're proud to be. That's the glow-up they never expected. That's the version of you they thought would never exist without them. You don't need to slash tires or send long, bitter messages to get even. You don't need to scream or demand recognition for your pain. You just need to rise, because nothing says I survived you louder than a woman who's thriving in her own light. It's in your smile, your softness that returned after the storm, your peace that no longer shakes when their name is mentioned. That's your glow, that's your revenge. When you heal, you begin to dress for yourself. You speak with confidence, not to impress, but because you finally believe your own worth. You reclaim your time, your energy, your dreams. You go after what you deserve unapologetically. You set boundaries and you keep them. You say no without guilt. You walk into rooms like you belong because now you know you do. That's what they never imagined, that after breaking you, you'd come back not bitter, but better. They expected you to drown in heartbreak, to fade quietly, but you used their exit as your invitation to return to yourself. You started building a life that feels like freedom, not performance. A life where your joy doesn't depend on anyone else. Where you laugh without looking over your shoulder, where you find beauty in solitude. That kind of transformation is rare, and it shakes people, not because they miss you, but because they can't reach you anymore. You don't glow just because you moved on. You glow because you moved up. You stopped settling. You stopped begging for attention that should have been freely given. You started investing in your peace. And the best part, your healing wasn't for show. It wasn't a loud announcement. It happened on the days you chose to show up for yourself, even when you didn't feel strong. It happened when you forgave yourself for staying too long, for trusting too much. It happened when you finally looked in the mirror and saw someone whole, not because of who left, but in spite of it. That glow, it's earned, through every tear you wiped alone. Through every sleepless night you spent convincing yourself to hold on just one more day. Through every morning you woke up feeling a little stronger, and now you walk different, talk different, you vibrate on a level they can't access, because your glow is sacred. It's built from truth, pain, growth, and that is the kind of revenge that doesn't fade. So no, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to live fully, boldly, softly, honestly, because the best revenge was never about getting even. It was about getting free, and when you do that, when you love yourself so fiercely that their absence feels like a blessing, that's the moment the game changes. That's when the glow becomes undeniable, and that's when you finally realize your healing, your happiness, your rise was always the point.